Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, representatives. You know, in my term so far in the Florida House since 2020, we have had a couple election bills that have come through and passed the House floor and passed the legislature and been signed into law. And with every bill, we heard the same concerns: voter suppression, voter suppression, voter suppression. You're making it harder for those who are eligible to vote to vote. And in debate on the floor, I stood up, I think on each bill, and said, we're not making it harder to vote. We're making it harder to commit fraud. And it's not a matter of if there will be fraud in the election system. It's a matter of when. So we have led the nation in our election integrity measures. And do you know what has happened since we passed those bills? Voter turnout has continued to go up. This last year, as Representative Basabe said, was the highest voter turnout in 30 years. But let me add to that. It was the highest voter turnout among all parties and all demographics. It's a red herring to base any opposition on voter suppression. It's also a red herring to base any opposition on saying that this bill isn't strong enough, that it doesn't continue to ensure Florida leads the way, that it is not in full compliance with President Trump's executive order that came out last week. I encourage everybody to go back and read the bill. The bill does require supervisors to report fraudulent registrations and illegal voting. The bill puts election crimes under racketeering. The bill does not change the provisions that we already have to investigate and prosecute fraud in this state, but it just adds to it. The bill also doesn't change due process in our state. And for those who are in opposition on the other side of this bill, let me remind you that we have due process, and we also have in place the ability to always vote by a provisional ballot. Regarding citizenship, if you apply before book closing and you don't have that documentation that a supervisor says he or she needs to verify your citizenship, you can still vote by a provisional ballot, and you just have to ensure you provide the necessary documentation in a certain time period. And let me talk about this manual recount and that not being strong enough in this bill. Let me push back against that for a second. This bill will make Florida the first in the state that prior to supervisors certifying the elections in the county, that they have to go through and they have to validate every single ballot cast by a separate, independent, automated vote validation process. They don't run it through the same tabulation machines. This is a separate process to make sure that the count was done correctly. And we do that before certification so that we can catch issues early, so that we can catch fraud early, that we can make sure undervotes and overvotes are properly counted early before certification. That is revolutionary. That shows where Florida leads the way. And that will solve so many problems as we move forward. So for those that say we don't have enough protections in current law or in this bill, I challenge you. And for those that say this bill isn't strong enough, I challenge you. The integrity of our elections is fundamental to our constitutional republic. We must continue to ensure that integrity and must continue that Florida leads the way. And with this bill, we will be in full compliance with President Trump's executive order. And I ask for your support today.